This entire podcast, and again, I'm still talking about wineries. If you've seen some of my earlier podcasts, is going to be uh, around one topic, which I think is the most important topic, and it applies to every business industry uh, that I have ever worked for, which has been quite a number of them. The question is, how much are you willing to spend to get one new loyal customer? And I want to emphasize the word loyal. Some people want to just get customers, but the reality is, in today's market, you want to get loyal customers, meaning they come back again and again and spend a certain dollar amount. And what dollar amount that is depends on your personal business, but you want to know in your business, how much am I willing to spend? How much is my marketing budget to find one new loyal customer? And I've only seen one business in my entire years of consulting and doing accounting and operating and marketing for business. Only one business actually even brought up this whole topic, that they had a number that they were willing to spend and had a marketing strategy that used that number to find their customers, and they were successful. Didn't even need my help. So it's an important question to ask. And I remember sitting in a meeting with the winery manager at the time, and we were trying to figure out, what we wanted to do to, sell to some customers, da 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 da. And uh, I asked the question, well, how much do we want to spend? Nobody seemed to answer the question. Like, well, if you don't know how much you want to spend to get a customer, you have no business talking about, events and strategies and tasting rooms and blah, blah, blah. You have no clue. And I remember back in my venture capital days, you'd get a business plan and executive summary, and it was really well written, da, 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 da. And of course the sales went, the diagonal upward line, and you look at their marketing strategy and it's like, well, how are you going to generate these sales? And it's like, well, we're going to advertise. Well, you have no idea who your customer is, how much you're going to spend to get those customers. You might have a great product, but again, you have no idea what it's going to take to find a loyal customer. Now, again, in the last podcast, the question was, who is your target customer? So now the question is, how much are you going to spend to get one new target customer? And I like to use this analogy, like, let's say you're selling widget, right? And I don't know what the widget does. It helps you clean your house or whatever. You have all sorts of marketing options and advertising options. And the question I had was, well, okay, what if you just went out onto the street and told someone, hey, try this widget, I'll give you $20. And everyone laughed like, well, why would we give $20 away for someone to try our product? It's like, well, because you don't know how much you're willing to spend to have someone try out your product. You don't know how much it takes to get a new loyal customer. So it's an important question because, again, it's going to come down to your marketing budget and your advertising budget, which I will cover in podcasts later, how to manage your expenses. But if you don't know how much you're willing to spend to get a new customer, you're not going to get new customers. So it's a good question to ponder and come up with a number. And I would assume all wineries have a tasting room. So let's just start with a tasting room and see how much you're willing to spend to get a new loyal customer out of your tasting room, right? Yeah, we can run through the numbers, and I can, be an accountant and throw them all up there and show you the cost of your wine and the cost of your tasting room and labor and blah, 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 blah. And we can take a guess as to how many people come into the tasting room that are new customers that end up being loyal customers after they try your wine. And again, you can say, oh, I think that number is 20%, or I think it's 10%, or 5, or 1 out of 100, or whatever the number is. But if we drill down on some of these things, the reality is it takes about $13, and this is from a tasting room, it takes about $13 to get one new loyal customer, meaning someone who's going to come in and not only buy wine then, but buy another bottle of wine in the future. And that's just assume that that's all they buy, is they buy wine a second time, either online or they come back to the tasting room or however else you sell it. It's going to take $13 to get that customer. So now you have at least a number you can go by, so that you could say, well, what if I just walked into town at lunchtime, downtown, and said, hey, I'll give you $13 to try my wine. How many loyal customers do you think you would get from that? And it's kind of the same thing as a tasting room, although I think it's illegal to give wine away for free on a street corner. But the point is, like, okay, if I poured wine for 10 people, would one of them become a loyal customer and go buy my wine at a later time? So, everyone thinks, oh, tasting rooms are great and great. And I would recommend you having a tasting room, but it's not the only way to get loyal customers. All it's telling you is, here's how much I'm willing to spend to get a loyal customer. So, and again, every tasting room is going to be a little different depending on where it's located and all that kind of stuff, how much your wine costs to buy or to grow or whatever. But let's just say it's $15 just to have a round number. And it allows us to kind of assess, like, well, what are some other options for strategies to find other customers? Again, I want to reiterate how important I think it is to find that lost customer base. So I'm a middle income earner. My household drinks wine occasionally, but I will tell you, I have never been the target customer for any winery ever. And it's like, okay, I buy wine. So why am I completely ignored by every winery in existence? I mean, I'm a wine drinker. My wife is a wine drinker, but wineries don't seem to like me because I don't fit their target audience. And I think that is a problem. There's probably a lot of people like me who have discretionary income, but do not feel like wineries care. And I will tell you that if you target a middle income occasional wine drinker, and again, I know nothing. My sophistication level is 0 when it comes to wine, but again, I still buy wine. If wineries targeted people like me, they would probably find a lot more buyers for their wine. I mean, wealthy people, there are books written about how to market to them, and they are very familiar with getting freebies and being the center of attention because everybody wants to have the high income earners as their clients, either brokers or wine sellers or clothing stores. That's the target customer. Hey, they have lots of discretionary income and we want them to buy our stuff all the time. So they are accustomed to getting things for free, getting offers, because that's people have to do to get their attention. However, what if you gave someone like me some attention and said, hey, let's go out and talk to the Jeffs of the world and give them some attention and promote our wine to them? You might find that the middle income earner is a lot more receptive to that because they don't often get treated that way. They're not usually the target customer. They might be the target customer for laundry detergent and soap and, whatever type of food. But for wines, it's usually considered to be a high income, prestigious, sophisticated product. And so we only really think about the people drinking that wine are going to be high income, sophisticated people. And so again, this is kind of thinking outside the box. Point of this is I need to sell more wine. I'm a winery. I'm making wine. My business is making wine. I need to sell more wine. So why am I targeting the most difficult demographic to sell wine? I should be targeting a much more receptive demographic who's going to appreciate me reaching out to them. So yeah, I think that there's a real reason to consider changing around your target audience from high income to middle income, and then having a very good idea of how much you're willing to spend. I mean, if someone gave me a free bottle of wine that costs $15, I cost you $8 to bottle, and just gave it out to me for free, it's going to make a pretty significant impact in my decision making in the future, because no winery has ever given me a free bottle of wine and said, hey, try our wine. I guarantee you, if you gave away an $8 bottle of wine, in other words, it costs you $8. I'm not saying that's the retail price. You gave away an $8 bottle of wine to 100 people that have my income level and my discretionary income. I guarantee you that 50% of them, if not more, will come back and buy a bottle of wine from you. So you've just made your money, all right? Because you should be selling your wine for probably 3 times your cost. So if 50% of the people buy it, you've made more money. And you probably would get at least 25 of those people to buy a second time. So why not think about it like that? Wineries just do not think about it this way. And it's like, it's an $8 bottle of wine. Your tasting room's already costing you $15 to get a new loyal customer. So why not try something new? Do something different than everybody else is doing, and shake up the industry a little bit, because it's all a me too. The whole wine industry is a me too. I'm just going to do what everybody else does. Um, and I'm going to tell you some different ways of doing things, because a lot of wineries struggle trying to do the Me Too thing. It's not an easy industry to make money in, mainly because everybody's doing the exact same thing as everybody else. So everything looks the same. I mean, geez, you go into a store and you walk down the wine aisle, and I swear it's like, did everybody use the same graphic designer for their label? They all look the same. And that's why some of these new labels start to jump out at you, because they look different. It's like, okay, I don't even care what this wine tastes like. This label's interesting, so I'm going to buy it, because every other label looks exactly the same. Again, some people are figuring it out. We got to be different. That doesn't mean that their marketing's any different, but at least their labels are starting to be different and stand out a little bit. So again, in the next podcast, we'll talk about using that cost of obtaining a new customer to assess what ways you can do some different marketing. So again, see you next time.